Captains of Industry, brought to you by Airtel.
A few weeks ago, Tata announced that it was increasing its stake in Neotel. It's a move that's set to lift Neotel's global profile. It may also calm the nerves of jittery shareholders. At first, the entry of Neotel excited domestic markets. They expected it to be some sort of a David and Goliath battle with Telkom, the main operator. But the trouble is that other giants then entered the fray, leaving Neotel with little ammunition to fight them off. Now there's been a management shake-up and the appointment of a new CEO. Neotel believes things will change. Leading the charge is Sunil Joshi, who's the former president of Tata Communications Global Enterprise Solutions Division, specializing in the Asia-Pacific region, the Middle East and Africa. He joins us now, our Captain of Industry tonight. Thanks so much for your time. Sunil, it's about 4 months since you came into the hot seat. What's that experience been like?
Just about 4 months and it's gone like a flash. I must say that time flies as you're having fun and totally engaged in the business.
Are you having fun?
Oh, you bet. Absolutely.
What about all the concerns that have been raised about the financial position of Neotel, losses, jittery shareholders? It was quite I think, a torrid time to enter.
Well, yes and no. Certainly there was a lot of media activity around the financial statements, but one must understand that as a telecommunications or communications and services business, one has to invest a lot in infrastructure. In our case, we chose to invest in fiber infrastructure within South Africa, as well as a wireless infrastructure that will enable us to get the reach to our customers that we intend to go with. So those investments have to come early and the revenue streams do follow. But over the last 4 years as we've been operating, we have been growing at a compounded annual growth rate of about 40% year on year. And last year alone, our growth rate was about 30% year on year. So those investments are giving a return, not as much as possibly we would like to see, but certainly it's growing almost about 8 to 9 times the growth rate of the industry.
I mean, you're quite bullish, but I mean, when Deloitte was doing your books about a year ago, they raised some concerns that this was not really a going concern from their point of view. They were talking about losses and recurring losses and the fact that you had something like 1.2 billion rands left of operating capital, and yet you still had mega capex to do in terms of expanding your fiber optic networks. What are you doing to fix that? Because if the auditors are concerned, then the shareholders are right to be concerned.
And certainly, I mean, that comes along with the infrastructure business that we're in. So the payback for an infrastructure business isn't a 3 to 4 year payback cycle. It often goes to 10 to 12 years of payback cycles. So the investments have been made, and we will continue to invest in infrastructure in South Africa. As a matter of fact, we still have over about R500 million in our current plan to invest in infrastructure this year. But that'll allow us to get reach to the areas that we need to reach out to the customers and connect them and provide services on top. But making sure that our costs as well as our revenues continue to grow is obviously the management's responsibility. And I think the growth rates that I just talked about gives an indication that the business continues to grow, one in the number of customers that we have as well as the revenues that we drive. And that will contribute to the bottom line as well.
What's your strategy going forward? Because many people associate Neotel with business telecoms solutions. And people are saying when you came in, you know, it really seemed like the game was up for Telkom. But what you weren't anticipating was the entry of the Vodacoms, the internet solutions, the MTNs into the same space. Has the game changed?
Well, and you asked the right question, which is what business is Neotel really in? And I can articulate that in a simple way, that we're in the business of connecting people and enterprises in South Africa to themselves and connecting South Africa to the world, emerging and developed to enable commerce. So we're more than just a telco. So what we look at building through our infrastructure is certainly provide communication services to our customers, which are enterprise as well as home or consumer customers, but also value-add services in the form of collaboration or data center solutions that span more than the just telecommunications area. Business
solutions, it's such a broad concept. People still look at you and say, no, you're in the fixed line space, and why fixed line in a world that's increasingly wireless? It doesn't make sense.
So when you look at our home offering, it's actually on a CDMA 1X infrastructure for voice or an eVideo for data.
You've just spoken Greek to me, right?
I have, and I thought I'd lose you a little bit there. But what it enables us to do is overcome a limitation of access, which was otherwise hard because of the local loop not being unbundled here, but also enables us to provide service to the consumer customers quicker, better, faster. And with that comes voice and data solutions. But on the enterprise side of the business customers, we provide solutions for them to enable them to connect across South Africa. But more importantly, Neotel is uniquely positioned as the only service provider to connect through all 4 existing cable, submarine cable assets, and the 5th one to come in early next year, which is WAX. So we'll be the only service provider to enable customers to go across the other parts of the world through all 5 submarine cable assets. So therefore, our ability to help businesses grow.
Telecoms 101, for my benefit, please. I mean, a lot of the investments done in CDMA in Africa, people would say, is a very much a GSM play. That is why Multilink struggled, for instance, to just take off in Nigeria, because the technology is not right for that market. Why invest in a technology that people see as not suited for this economy?
CDMA as a technology is certainly a good technology for data solutions, and we see that broadband growth is going to be exponentially growing in the years ahead. And therefore, we chose to go the CDMA way for both our voice and our data solutions for the consumer segment. However, for the business segment, we chose with fiber infrastructure, which is light and glass. So you can get upgrades as quickly as you need to be, and much faster and fatter pipes, and not limited by copper, which has its own limitations as a medium for communication. So it's a combination of many infrastructure assets that we have deployed that will enable us to provide services to the consumers and customers we serve.
How do you talk to the consumer? Because some of us do have very pedestrian views on telecos, for instance, and some bloggers who are looking at the new cordless phone, its affordability, all sorts of other things, said that it's like a limited cell phone using CDMA. They weren't impressed. The market's not impressed.
Well, the earlier device that we had was a bigger and a little bulky device that a lot of people would not find as nice to carry along. But the newer device that we launched at the end of April has gained quite a lot of acceptance with our current consumers. And if our recent uptake is one to look at, it's a lot better than we had in the previous quarter. So we're seeing good traction happening with the newer device. And of course, device is usability, and usability is experience. And that experience is only improving. Of course, we have areas to still continue to go and improve on where we'd like to be from a customer experience standpoint. And the team at Neotel are working hard to bring about those improvements.
I mean, when you came in, bells and whistles, lots of expectations, and people said, okay, what's he going to do? That's amazing. What's the next big idea under your stewardship?
I didn't hear the bells, neither the whistles. But as I came in, certainly one of the objectives that I had and a mandate from the board is to become profitable as a business and turn EBITDA positive this fiscal year. So our entire focus at Team Neotel is making sure that this business becomes EBITDA positive in this fiscal year.
And what are you going to do tangibly? Because, I mean, in terms of that profitability, I've just spoken to you about those recurring losses. And so there's a lot of catch-up just in terms of, you know, getting the books back into the black before we can even talk about profits.
Absolutely. So the 2 bits, well, actually there are about 4 areas that the focus goes on right now. First of all is, of course, managing our costs. And we need to look at very closely our cost base and optimize that for the services we provide. Second is, with the services that we have built, reaching out to our customers and prospects that are looking for converged IP solutions with voice, data, and video over a single fiber infrastructure, and being able to provide them leading edge solutions that will help them address their business needs and grow in their chosen markets. A combination of these 2 will certainly get us in the right direction. But in addition to that, focus on our people. The people at Neotel are our biggest assets, and I'm very proud and honored to be working with a team that is that talented as those that we have in Neotel, and build the business, who have built it over the last 4 years, and build the business in the years to come.
In recent weeks, obviously, news dominated by the major announcement that Tata is increasing its stake to 61.5%. Lots of questions. Who sold their stake? Why? What's going on? What does it mean for the company?
A few years ago, the Tata Group came in with 26% equity stake, which became 56%, and 56 it's now at the group level to 68.5, of which Tata Communications has 61.5. What that echoes is the confidence that the Tata Group has in the business, which is Neotel. Backed by a strong global shareholder is an asset to Neotel, but also backed by the local BE partner, which is Nexus, is a bigger asset to us. So as a combination of these 2 elements, we have a partner and a shareholder that enables us to understand the local dynamics of South Africa and how to work with South Africa and the SADC region. But we also have a global partner and a shareholder in Tata Communications that enables us to get best of class global solutions and bring it to South Africa, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. But we can get greater solutions, more meaningful solutions for our customers with a lot quicker and faster means.
How do you respond to those who looked at this transaction and said basically the BE partners are starting to panic? They were expecting that at this stage they would start to see value for their investments, and they're not seeing value for the investments. The business is just bleeding cash and they're not really sure whether they're competitive.
Well, I think the shareholders have been very supportive of Neotel, and we thank them for their support and their guidance, and we continue to be backed by our shareholders, and they continue to ensure that the business is going on track, but give us the support we need.
Beyond South Africa, how do you look at ICT in general? Because it's been one of the greatest growth stories pre and post recession. I mean, returns on investment in the region of 13%, outperforming major indices internationally. So it's hot property, telecoms, but it's very different terrain.
Telecommunications as an industry, most telecommunications businesses are looking at expanding their capability. As our customers are asking us to deliver services which are no longer just simple point-to-point links, it's more meshed networks, MPLS, VPNs, these are all obviously terminologies that we will use in our industry, but also provide the service layer on top that enables us to give them a service, not for them to manage the various circuits or links that we have underneath. And that's a shifting demand from our customers that are also enabling us to provide a IT-enabled service along with the telecommunications bit. And there's quite a bit of innovation that's now coming as telecommunications and service providers like us start moving into a bit of what we would call as the IT domain. As we invest in data centers in South Africa, which we have in Johannesburg and Cape Town, and we invest in technologies like telepresence, which will enable collaboration not just within South Africa, but worldwide.
I think the reason I'm asking you this is that many people have argued that South Africa is a saturated market. This is not a place to be beginning a new endeavor. You probably want this as the gateway, as people call it these days, into the rest of Africa. It's contested terrain Africa, but it's exciting new markets where you can really start from scratch, and that maybe tactically coming to South Africa wasn't very clever.
I'll counter that with the South African market, telecommunications market, is about 160 billion rand in turnover and size. The fixed market is about 45 billion rand in turnover. So it is quite a sizable market, growing at about an average growth rate of 4% year on year, compounded annual growth rate. So it does present an interesting opportunity for us to come into South Africa because we see opportunity within South Africa itself. And hence we're making investments in South Africa. However, equally important are the regions and the trading partners of South Africa, like the SADC region, which become important for us to ensure that the links and the commerce is enabled between South Africa and the SADC region. But equally important, we have many customers that are choosing to expand their business into Africa, the African continent. So as we've made investments into some of the submarine cable assets I mentioned before, we have this capability of connecting across the east coast as well as the west coast of the African continent, as well as South Africa and SADC region, and then have some VSAT capability that enables us to provide services in the landlocked areas of Africa. So we are working with quite a few customers who are expanding into Africa to provide them the infrastructure they need to grow their business. So we do see Africa as a growth area as part of our overall emerging markets play, but certainly our focus right now is around South Africa and the SADC region.
Emerging markets underscore, it's not your first foray into emerging markets. Obviously you've been working in the Asia Pacific region, North Africa and the Middle East. How vastly different is South Africa and indeed Africa in your view?
Each geography has its own nuances, its cultural sensitivities, how things are done in each country, and often somebody coming from outside of that geography does not understand the local context of how business or even how people live. So our approach has always been to first get people that are local into the business and grow the business from then on. So seeding people that are local to then enable us to understand the dynamics of connecting with the geography. And whichever geography we've chosen to engage has enabled us to get the local people to bring that knowledge and skills. And over the years of engagement, it's helped us get better in understanding those geographies.
All right, we'll continue on this tack. We're speaking to Sunil Joshi, the CEO of Neotel. We've been sifting through some of this telecoms jargon. After the break, we're going to be going through his personality and the make or break of his value system as he leads Neotel into a new era. Stay with us.